want to start with an open letter from the parents of a young son on his birthday in wake of the Sandy Hook massacre that took place more than 5 years ago.
Closer to the mic. Closer to the mic.
You're still young, and you don't know that this world is filled with heartache. Lives are exploited, wounded, and stolen every single day. Many think that there's nothing you can do, nothing to stop this cruelty, and they turn blind eyes whenever evil and hatred strike. But you will not be like them. You will face the pain, knowing that there is good amidst deep heartache, searching and uncovering it. Finding the tiniest shreds of hope in the deepest darkness, it will be hard. It will not stop. And there will be days that it will try and convince you that there's no reason to get back on your feet, but you can never forget the hope that is found in the tiniest of miracles. The strength to keep going, the silent helping hand, the light after a long night. You. Sometimes hope will look like you. Standing your ground, extending your hand and loving rebelliously, defiantly, unconditionally, no matter what. That is who you will be. You're still young, but someday you'll learn that hatred, cruelty, and heartache exist. And in the face of their existence, the world is desperate for unconditional, defiant, wild love. Be that love. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Austin. I'm so thankful and energized to be with you guys this morning. We're here today because guns have changed and our laws have not. We're here today to show and prove our demands for the necessity of gun safety and its coexistence with the Second Amendment. Its essentiality if we are to coexist with each other. In public, in private, in the workplace, and in schools. My history teacher was supposed to come and support me and support us today, but she got held up looking at wedding venues, which honestly I'm all right with, because she won't be here to hear me say that I've learned more in recent years on TV and in the newspapers than I have in global studies. And in honesty, if there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's that the NRA and other groups against reform, they believe that the American public has an attention span of 1.5 to 2 weeks on any given subject. But let me tell you, it's been 1.5 weeks. It's been 10 days since Parkland. And you guys are here. We're still here. We have not forgotten, and we will not forget. And so we have our speakers here for you guys today to show you the path to the creation of sustained and continuous efforts at common sense reform. And so my hope is that they can turn your emotions and your tears into action. Without further ado, we will be having our first speaker, who is Christopher Runion, and he's a teacher in Montgomery Township and a resident of your Flemington Borough.
When I was initially asked to be here about a week ago, I wasn't sure if I was the one to give the speech today. I wasn't sure whether to say yes or no. I wasn't sure, not because I didn't have something to say. I wasn't sure because I didn't know if I was the one to say it. Unlike perhaps some of you, or maybe many of you out there, I myself haven't been a victim of gun violence, nor do I have close friends or family that have. I also do not have children, and I can't imagine what it would be like sending a child to school one day and not seeing their smiling return. I wasn't sure because I had thought in my own life I hadn't been affected by guns, but yet so many others have. But as I wrote this speech last night, I realized that my initial thoughts were mistaken. I am affected. I'm affected each time I go to the supermarket, a park, or a movie theater. I'm affected at the gym and at a restaurant. I'm affected with the fear that at any moment my life and the lives of those around me can be taken by a gun. But perhaps I'm most affected at my work. I'm affected when I walk into my work and I'm greeted with a security camera and a locked door. I'm affected when I have then to walk past a security guard and another dozen cameras before I reach my door, another locked door. I'm affected when I'm sitting in the lunchroom wondering if I'm going to be singled out because of my position of authority. I'm affected when I hear other districts getting professional development in what to do with bodies in the event of a shooting like the one in Florida. Now you might think after hearing how guns affect me that I work in a prison or a military base. And to be honest, some days it can feel that way. But I'm a teacher, and what I described is what it feels like in America's schools today. Teachers, of course, are not the only ones affected. Our students also feel the effects. It affects them when once a month we have a lockdown drill. Our lights are off and we huddle in corners and under desks, preparing ourselves for the day when we might be the next. It affects them when they hear the news of another mass shooting and wonder if it's our school that will be next. It affects their sense of community, their ability to share ideas, their willingness to stand out from the crowd. You see, we may not realize it, but we are all affected by guns. And despite our lockdown drills and our locked doors, the NRA and many of our politicians think we're a safer, freer society. Well, I'm here to say that locked doors work both ways. It may lock others out, but it also keeps us locked in. Despite what the NRA and gun lobby would like us to believe, freedom isn't bought. Freedom is taught. There's a reason why early in our history, there was an effort to ensure that every child receive an education and not a gun. And this reason is not what most would think. If I asked one of my students why they're in school, I'd probably get the answer to some effect that their parents make us. And if I asked the parents why their children are in school, they'd likely respond to get a good job. But these are accidentals to education, not what is essential to education. The purpose of education is to ensure our democracy and in turn our freedom. It is only if we have an educated citizenry that we can make informed, deliberate decisions about those who represent us. That we can entertain another's thoughts without necessarily accepting them. And that is where we come to entertaining some thoughts about the solutions to our crisis in our schools. There are those who want to put more guns in our schools, arming teachers. And there are lawmakers in Florida currently advancing a bill that requires, and I quote, "In God we trust," to be displayed on every school ground in Florida as a solution to this nationwide epidemic. Advancing the notion that this is not a gun issue, but, and I quote, "an issue of the heart." We've entertained these thoughts long enough, and we don't accept them. When 97% of the country supports universal background checks, when 67% support a ban on assault weapons, when despite public opinion poll numbers, and poll numbers like these, events like Columbine, Sandy Hook, and Parkland continue, it is time that we take on the NRA and the inaction of our legislators with the only weapon we really have and the only one that we really need. It is equally feared by both of these groups because of its potential power. We don't need to wear it around our hips, and we don't need to carry it every day to work. We only need to wear it 1 or 2 days a year. A sticker, and it says, "I voted." I ask you to make sure that you vote in the primary in June and the general in November for those candidates committed to gun control and are willing to take political contributions from the NRA. Let us ensure that those lives lost to gun violence were not lost in vain. Let us as a nation put away our trigger fingers and take out our ballot fingers. Our schools, our children, our freedom, and our democracy depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Our next speaker is your current NJ Assemblyman out from the 16th District, Roy Freiman.
Thank you all for coming out today. Today we are here to gather to save our children. But actually, on common sense gun control, I think it's actually our children that are going to save us. Like you, I'm a parent. My wife is a teacher, and I am a gun owner. And last week, I watched, like you, in horror at another shooting. And my heart was sickened like you. Because 18 years ago, we watched as 2 students walked into Columbine and shot up their fellow students. And we rallied, and we called for common gun control. And did anything happen? No. And then, 11 years later, at Virginia Tech, over 30 students' lives were taken by another student. And we rallied, and we called for common gun controls. And did anything happen? No! And then 5 years ago, the most unthinkable thing happened. And Sandy Hook, 21 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds died. And their teachers died. And we rallied again. And we called for common sense gun control. And did anything happen? No! And here we are, yet again. And I am angry, and you are angry, because nothing seems to be happening. Now, in New Jersey, we need the common sense gun control. We have it here in New Jersey, and we need it beyond New Jersey. So let me ask you, should people who have been committed of domestic violence, should they have weapons? No! We have that here in New Jersey. If people have been deemed by federal government that they are unsafe to fly in a plane, should they be able to walk into a gun store to buy weapons? No! And if people are being treated for mental health conditions, should they be able to buy weapons? No! These are common sense gun control issues. And we need them, and we have these here in New Jersey. And we need them beyond. But I will tell you, we need more than that. Because we don't know what we don't know. A year ago, I couldn't tell you a bump stock from a bumper sticker. And many of you didn't know that either. But there are people who do know this. There are the people that know guns. And they are the responsible gun owners. And the vast majority of gun owners are like that. And we need their help. We need their help at the table to help us craft that. And to help us craft reasonable, practical measures so we can go beyond. Because we're not perfect here in New Jersey. And I'm glad to say this week, New Jersey joined with our regional states, with Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, to join in sharing of data so we can make sure that other people, so we can share in data so people don't get guns that don't deserve to have guns. It needs to go beyond this though, and that's why we're rallying even more. But if we continue to do the same thing over and over again, we're going to get the same results. But we have a secret weapon, and that's our children. See, but adults, when we become adults, we acquire a superpower. We all do. And that superpower is the ability to ignore another adult. We do. We have the ability to ignore great logical conversation over and over again, which is why our calls for common sense gun control have gone unnoticed. And by the way, this ability to ignore another adult is the foundation for many good marriages, I will have you know. But we also have a kryptonite, and that is our children. And that evidence is found in the useless pieces of Game Boys and other things that are in the closets of our house because we can't ignore their requests over and over again. And now our children and the students are engaged, and that's going to be the difference maker. So we need to call out. We need to call to Washington. But this time, we need to have them listen to our children over and over again. And if we are smart, and if Washington is smart, and if we listen to our children and the students, this will be the last rally of its kind. Thank you very
much. Thank you, Roy. Our next speaker is President of the New Jersey Brady Campaign, Carol Stiller.
Thank you all for coming out, and thank you all for including the New Jersey Million Mile March and Brady Campaign chapters. My name is Carol Stiller, and I'm president of our state council. It seems like only yesterday, but 10 days have passed since the mass shooting and mass killing of 17 people, many of them students between the ages of 14 and 16 at a high school in Parkland, Florida. Our hearts are still with the grieving families, but our minds and our guts are marching forward with students from Florida and from across the country as they demand action from Congress to stop these senseless tragedies. #enough. Today's rally is only one of many actions that will let our congressional delegation, and in particular Representative Leonard Lance, know that we all have had enough. We've had enough of the mass shootings, and we've had enough of the individual killings that take 7 children every day from their families and loved ones. Because they are not all in one classroom or even all in one state, no one seems to care about them. We are losing over a classroom of children every week in America, and twice as many are being shot and survive to live with this trauma for the rest of their lives. But Congress doesn't even express their thoughts and prayers for those children. The Million Mile March on Mother's Day of 2000 brought 850,000 women, men, and children to the National Mall in Washington, D.C., demanding sensible gun laws, safe kids. Satellite marches took place in more than 70 cities across the United States. In October of 2001, we merged with the Brady Campaign to prevent gun violence. Other groups have since joined us in the fight against gun violence. But only in this past week have I felt the way I did that day that I marched on the mall. I feel there is hope for sensible gun laws, safe kids. A new generation is standing up to Congress, a generation that has been raised with active shooter drills, who have had to step over their friends' bodies as they hurry out of their schools, who have attended too many funerals of their young friends. They are not going to let Congress get away with inaction on gun violence prevention measures anymore. They have been speaking out eloquently about the loss of their friends and about how angry they are. They are organizing, they are marching, they are walking out. They will not be silenced. I hope that hearing from these young people today will leave others inspired to help in our quest to prevent gun violence. Although we have had some success along the way, I feel we have failed our children. So now it is time to stand behind them and beside them as they demand that Congress stop taking money from the NRA and start saving students' lives. The nation's students are not listening to the down-the-road statements from President and Congress. They've already staged a lie-in at the White House this past Monday, and some have met with the President. On March 14th, a national school walkout is planned, and they are organizing a march in Washington, D.C. on March 24th to call for stricter gun legislation to prevent another mass shooting, whether it be in a school or elsewhere. I hope they exceed the number of people that the original Million Mile March drew. Many of us will be there with them. They are putting a badge of shame on anyone who has taken money from the NRA. As one of the Parkland students said, you're either with us or you're against us. And I tell you students that the Brady campaign and Million Mile March chapters all across the country are with you, and I'm sure that is true of everyone here today. There will be much that we can do to support these young people along their journey, but without getting in their way, we must continue our fight for sensible gun laws as well. Those here today have taken a large step by showing up. Now write to Representative Lance, call his offices, comment on Congressman Leonard Lance's Facebook page, and let him know that you have had enough and that you demand that he work on saving our youth from gun violence, or he will be working even harder on saving his job in November. It's heartbreaking that reports that this shooter was going to explode, that people knew he had guns and was threatening to shoot up a school, even from the family with whom he lived, were not investigated. Now, the handling of this individual was outstandingly bad. However, in most states, the law doesn't allow law enforcement to arrest someone or remove guns from that person unless there is a specific threat. That is why it is so important to pass ERPO legislation. ERPO stands for Extreme Risk Protection Order, which we have pushed for in New Jersey, and the governor has put on his early list of bills he will sign. At the federal level, there is a bill which references GVRO, Gun Violence Restraining Order. Same thing. It's a law that probably would have kept the Parkland shooter from obtaining his AR-15. This legislation gives family members and police authorities the power to obtain a court order to restrict a person from getting a gun if he or she displays behavior that can cause danger with the possession of a firearm. Representative Lance has to co-sponsor and vote yes on H.R. 2598, GVR legislation introduced into Congress on May 23rd, 2017. How many lives do you think would have been saved if the bill had been passed 10 months ago? And while we're waiting for Congress to act, our state legislators have to move ERPO bills A1217 and S795 through immediately so that it can start saving lives. They are currently both sitting in respective law and public safety committees. 5 states currently have this law in the books. Let's make New Jersey the 6th state. And we expect our state legislators to also put a limit of 10 rounds on high-capacity magazines, to outlaw weapons of 50 caliber or greater, require background checks for private gun sales, prohibit possession of ammunition capable of penetrating body armor, and codifying regulations defining justifiable need to carry a gun. These are all bills that the governor has said he will sign. Let's get them out of committee and onto the floors for an aye vote. And how about a federal assault weapons ban? New Jersey has had one for years, and I'm happy to report that a pending assault weapon bill is being introduced by Democratic Representative David, I have trouble with his name, I'm sorry, Cicilline from Rhode Island. It's coming out this Monday. And do you remember how Congress was going to discuss banning bump stocks after the grieving was done of the Las Vegas victims? Well, I see that 45 finally made a move to ban bump stocks. We'll see how that goes. Fortunately, New Jersey did get a ban on bump stocks signed into law in January, but it is needed on the national level. Leonard Lance needs to get on board with the rest of the people in New Jersey and co-sponsor both of these bans. Certainly we need the Brady background check system strengthened so that backgrounds are checked on all gun sales. H.R. 4220. After 3 sessions, Representative Lance still hasn't committed to vote for that. And did you know that 90% of guns used in crimes are traced back to only 5% of gun dealers in this country? Last year, 42 guns used in New Jersey crimes came from one dealer in Ohio. 42 guns used in New Jersey crimes came from one dealer in Ohio. We need to have crime gun trace reports made public so that we can put pressure on these dealers, which the Brady campaign calls bad apple gun dealers, to either clean up their act or close up shop. This is just more common sense gun legislation that Leonard Lance should be able to support. I will conclude by saying that not all answers come from legislation. There are things you must do in your own home and community to prevent gun violence. Students of all ages must speak up if they hear of a gun threat at school. If they cannot talk to a school administrator, they can call 866-SPEAK-UP and make an anonymous report. As adults, we must ask if there is a gun in the home where we send our children to play, and if it's stored properly. And if you have a gun in your home, it is your duty to secure the weapon and keep it from your children and anyone who may be depressed or suffering from anxiety issues. In most cases, the guns used in school shootings come from the shooter's own home. I hope you will take action today. I urge everyone to take action today, including Representative Lance and our state legislators. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Our last speaker is Katie Conover, who's a junior at Hunterdon. Our next speaker is Tom Malinowski, who is the Hunterdon County nominee for Congress this year in the 7th District. Here's Tom.
Thank you, everyone. And if you want to hold Leonard Lance accountable, you don't want to skip over me. I want to start with a word for the younger people in this audience. And I think you know this already, but you have power. You are not alone. The facts are on your side. For example, you know it is a fact that the states in our country with the toughest gun safety laws are the states with the fewest firearm deaths, including here in New Jersey. It is a fact that common sense measures, like banning assault rifles, like limiting ammunition sales, like universal background checks, like red flag laws, save lives. We know that in New Jersey. We have that experience. We can show it to the rest of the country. It is a fact that none of these steps violate the Second Amendment to the Constitution. Our courts have told us that. It is a fact that after every single mass shooting, after every single massacre of our children, we are reminded that the vast majority of Americans support these measures, including the vast majority of responsible gun owners in this country. It is a fact that that American eagle is on our side. We are on the side of patriotism. We are on the side of protecting this country. Thank you for being here. Who are we? We are mothers and fathers who do not want to kiss our children goodbye every single morning when they go to school and have to fear that we may not see them again. We are children, we are young people who are going to be registering to vote the very first day they can to hold adults accountable if we do not act. We are military veterans who understand that the weapons of war they trained on for use on the battlefield should not be on the hands of civilians or teachers or teenagers in this country. We are police officers who are the real good guys with a gun and who do not want the bad guys to be coming after them with an AR-15 rifle. And as Roy and others said, we are, in Hunterdon County and all over this state and country, we are responsible gun owners who have guns for hunting and for protecting themselves in the home, but who understand that we need common sense regulations based on common sense and common facts. We respect each other. We respect the Constitution. But we understand that weapons should be regulated no less than drinking a beer or driving a car in this country. And we know one other thing. We know that the NRA gun lobby does not represent us. It does not represent people in Hunterdon County. I mean, think about it. What kind of organization incites FBI agents to resist their leadership in the way that the NRA did just this week? What kind of organization takes money from Russia to influence our politics with millions and millions and millions of dollars of secret contributions? What kind of organization urges its armed followers to come after, their words, not mine, to come after journalists who write critical stories about them? Is this an American organization? Is this a patriotic organization? Is this an organization that represents responsible gun owners, much less the rest of us? No! And ask yourself this question: what kind of politician takes money from that organization? What kind of politician? Well, unfortunately, our Congressman Leonard Lance does. He has a 93% rating. What kind of congressman has a 93% rating from the NRA? What kind of congressman sits on the powerful Energy and Commerce Committee and yet refuses year after year after year to support bills, not to ban guns, not even to regulate gun ownership, but just to allow the federal government to study gun violence in this country? So our message to all of those politicians and to our Congressman Leonard Lance should be very simple. Don't just put out a press release.
Do it.
Return that check from the NRA. Support common sense gun safety legislation. Have the backbone to stand up to the gun lobby, not just when children are being lowered into their graves, not just when the spotlight is on you this week, but every day, every week, until we solve this problem. And if you don't do that, then we, the citizens of this state, the citizens of this district, are going to come after you with the legitimate and powerful weapons that we, as citizens of a democratic republic, have with our voices and with our vote. Thank you very much.
Calm again, man. Sorry. Our last speaker is Katie Conover, who is actually a junior at Hunterdon Central High School.
thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to voice my opinion.
Louder! Speak into the
Oh,
mic.
sorry. Hunterdon Central is a safe community, but so is Parkland, so is Sandy Hook, so is Littleton. Hunterdon Central and most of the schools in New Jersey are no different from those schools, except we still have a chance to stop what now feels like the inevitable. After the Parkland shooting, I was terrified of how that could have been my school, how that could have been me, and I'm still terrified about how that still could be me. But the students at Parkland inspired me to speak out, and instead of accepting this horrid fate, I'm going to raise my voice and be the change I want to see. There is no other way to stop these shootings except a gun reform. Arming teachers won't prevent this, teaching students self-defense won't stop this, only reform and only fighting against what some see as an endless battle. As a child, authoritative figures like politicians always encouraged my classmates and I that we could change the world. So I tell those same adults that they shouldn't be surprised now that we're doing just that. It's far too easy for anyone to buy a gun. There are more than 64,000 legal gun dealers in America. That's more than the number of McDonald's and larger than the amount of Starbucks in the entire world. Anyone can go to a gun dealer and buy an assault rifle. This is unbelievable, and there's no reason for a gun with that amount of power. No one needs an assault rifle for protection. It's for assault. It's in the name. My right as a student to be safe in a classroom outweighs your right to own such a gun. There are children dying and grieving. A student should go to school worried about midterms in their lacrosse game, not whether or not they'll make it home from school. America will try to make this a red versus blue argument, but it's not about that. It's about how I don't want to see my classmates shot. It's about how I don't want to see my best friends die. Marco Rubio, the U.S. Senator for Florida, stated that he did not believe a law on guns would prevent something like this from happening again. But I beg to differ. The AR-15 was used to murder 17 people in Parkland, 30 in Orlando, 59 in Las Vegas, 17 in Sandy Hook, and 13 at Columbine High School. None of these murderous acts could have been perpetrated if it weren't for the assault rifle. They need to be outlawed. Like Emma Gonzalez stated, they wouldn't have harmed that many people with a knife. We need change, and only we can do that. I won't stop fighting for gun reform until this happens never again.
I know it's raining. I'll keep this short. I didn't prepare a closing statement. I wanted to come up here and let everything that everyone else said speak for itself, and I think it did. I think it did. So I want to thank all of you guys for coming out. I know it seems like a small deal, but in numbers, there is ability to create and inspire change. So thank you again, and be the love.